Hello everyone, my name is Rainer. This is Rainier Books. It is Sunday and it is September 11, a historical date. I know this. 21 years ago there was 9/11 in the United States, but today also is a very important day in Sweden because we have elections on all three levels. I will return to that later on, and I will also talk about the books, of course, that I have read or that I'm reading and that I'm intending to read next week. Let's do this. So let's get started with bookish stuff. So if you're not interested in the rest, you can cut off the video and you can leave. You can go to your other favorite channel. I hope that you return to the channel. I hope that you subscribe to the channel down below. It helps so much. I will speak about BookTube and about how you can help booktubers in a later video very soon, I promise to do so. I finished one little small book this week, and this was Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Au. And this, I don't like the, I think that's a British cover edition because I got this from the library here in Stockholm. Actually in New York, so this is probably the American edition. Cold Enough for Snow is a meditation. It's a very short novel. It's a novelette and it is not more than 95 pages. Jessica Au has won awards for this one. It's her debut in the long prose genre. This is the story of two people who are traveling to Tokyo in Japan, a city that I have loved to travel to and I would love to travel to again. I was there twice, so I sort of recognized a lot of things that Jessica is describing in her novel here. It is the story of a mother and her daughter, and the daughter is the narrator. She has arranged this trip to Tokyo, and it's actually not so clear where they are coming from, but since Jessica Au, the author, is based in Melbourne, Australia, I guess that they're coming from Australia, and there's some signs that they are coming from an English-speaking country at least. Because one of the two women, and that's the younger one, the daughter, speaks better English than Cantonese, and the other one is a little bit better in Cantonese than in English. They have lived in Hong Kong. They have memories of Hong Kong, and the narrator has a problematic relationship to her mother. It's not as problematic as in novels like Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi or other authors that I have read recently, but it's a problematic relationship nevertheless. They don't have much to say to each other, and they seem to be, and this is also a cultural question, because the older woman has grown up in Asia, definitely in Hong Kong and outside of Hong Kong, in China mainland, so to speak. And the other one, the younger daughter, has more or less spent most of her life in Australia. And this already leads to a couple of understandings of different perceptions of the world, because the world that the daughter has perceived is more the world seen from the eyes, probably from Australia, whereas the eyes of the mother, the whole socialization of the mother comes from a different time. And that's, I think, why they have also problems to communicate with each other. But very often the thoughts of the woman who is narrating the story when they're walking through the narrow streets of Tokyo, and she describes Tokyo very beautifully. I remembered so many things that I've seen when I was there. The small streets sometimes when you feel like you are in a small town, but you are actually in the biggest, the largest city on earth. The smells, the light, and a lot of things that I recognized again, and I was happy to recognize in this book. But her thoughts wander around. They wander back to the past. They wander to her childhood. They wander to things when she was working in a cafe, when she had problems with a very difficult customer. This is a kind of a prose of almost interior monologue, or drifting away, of meandering, as somebody had called it on my channel, that I really like. And this kind of getting lost in the moment, capturing the moment, but nevertheless connecting the moment to everything that you have. I was really extremely good in doing this, in bringing these things and these pieces together. And I think I had a short passage that I wanted to quote just to give you an idea of how this story is written. As soon as the train left the station, I felt a sense of relief. I wanted to walk in the woods and among the trees. I wanted not to speak to anyone, only to see and hear, to feel lonely. The train passed by fields and farms, plastic-covered greenhouses and small crossings. A little way along, I got off and bought fruit and some bowls of rice and seaweed, as well as tea and crackers from a convenience store. Then I caught the bus up the mountain to the beginning of the trail. I would stay overnight at the inn before walking back in the direction I had come in the morning. On the way, I had seen that there was a bathhouse not far from where I was staying, and I took a towel with me and left the rest of my things and made my way back down the road. It was late afternoon, and while walking, I did not see a single car. The bathhouse was a wooden structure at the end of a dirt path. The trees around it were deep green, a thick, dark mulch of mud and earth and fallen foliage on the ground. The bath was deep, the water cloudy. I washed and wrapped my hair up above my head before entering. The walls were made out of heavy stone, and the wooden floors were wet and shiny, the boards long and long ago stained black. There was no one else there, and no one came the whole time I stayed. Outside I could see the darkening. There were 2 long stretched squares of white light on the surface of the water, reflections from the window. I thought of my afternoons at the pool when I had been a student, how I had felt, long and lean. I thought of my mother, who had never learned to swim, and of Laurie, and of kayaking across the Crater Lake near where he'd grown up. And this is the way the thoughts are meandering, or walking away, or strolling away from the present day to memories of the narrator's life. It's a beautiful book. It's quiet, very silent, very beautifully written, and very silent. Yeah, very silent in a way. A silent but beautiful book. Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica Au. They traveled to Japan in, I think, September, October, and it's cold enough for snow, they say it one time in the book. I have been to Japan in the summer twice. Maybe I should go when it's cold enough for snow for the next time. I have DNF'd a book, so from the 14 books that I had on my TBR for September and October, I can say that 2 of them are gone. One of them I have read, I have finished. The other one I have DNF'd, and that is Dead If You Don't by Peter James. I DNF'd it. I read, 6, 7, 8, 9 books of Peter James in his series of Detective Chief Superintendent Roy Grace from the Brighton Police Department. And this one I wanted to pick it up again. I wanted to pick up the series again and to see where it's going, where the character Roy Grace is going, where the supporting characters are going in the story. But this, I think it's too much. It was too much for me, because the plot is starts at the Amex football or soccer stadium in Brighton and Hove Albion, when Brighton has returned to the Premier League. They're playing First Division again in the UK, and they're playing Manchester City. The stadium is sold out, like 40,000 people are there, and there's a bomb under a seat, a bomb in form of a camera. And Inspector Roy Grace is also in the stadium with his son. He has his son, he's taken his son to the stadium. There are other things that certainly Roy Grace will puzzle together, that certainly Peter James has pieced together. There are a lot of Albanian immigrants to the UK who are appearing in the story. There is a side story, a chapter where a man, very much in the beginning, so it's no spoiler alert here, where a man has been stabbed 1,000 times but is still alive because the man who is torturing him knows exactly what he's doing. There is a boy that is kidnapped. He's the son of a very unsympathetic businessman of Brighton, a multi-millionaire, and everything is just too much in the plot. Like a big catastrophe and, bomb in a stadium, torture of the worst kind, and all these kinds of things that were just too much for me. And I really don't know if I pick up a Peter James thriller again. Tell me if you do. Tell me if you like him. I stick to the few of my crime authors that I absolutely adore and love, like Michael Connolly, and also the Canadian author Sam Wiebe. from Vancouver, Canada, with his third detective novel, Hell and Gone, in the Dave Wakeland series. I have started reading this one now instead of Peter James, and read the first 3 or 4 chapters. And this one, the third one that I'm reading, Dave Wakeland, the private investigator who has an office right in the middle of Vancouver, wakes up in the middle of the night in his office. For some reason, he's in his office. He sort of wakes up in the middle of the night and he looks outside the window because there are sounds coming from the building on the opposite side of the street, and shooting goes on, incredible shooting goes on. Many people are dead, and Dave Wakeland walks into a scene of horror and of utter violence. And of course he gets involved into this case. Whatever happens, I don't know yet. But this is so much different from Brighton. I mean, Peter James is writing about Brighton as well. He's writing about Brighton as well. But the way that Sam Wiebe is writing, or Wiebe is writing about Vancouver, is much more to my taste, actually, and to my catering, that I like Wiebe's novel a lot more. That's all I can say. I also have finished the second story of Night of the Living Rats by Morgan Talty. And that's what I have been doing pretty much in terms of reading. Today there's an election in Sweden. I said that in the beginning of the video, and I might have some clips ending this video from my walk to the election. The reigning Social Democrats have a coalition that supports them with the Liberal Center Party, the Green Party, and the Left Party that is sort of supporting the leading the government, the Social Democratic government. On the other side, we have conservative parties and also the right-wing populist, very populist Sweden Democrats, who might become the second largest party in this country of Sweden in 2022 for the very first time in the history of the country. We have issues in that election that were gang crime. It was number one. Everybody said it's gang crime. It's integration of the immigrants that have come to Sweden and still come to Sweden. And the third big issue is the crisis that we are living in Europe and other parts of the world because of the war in Ukraine, because of the pandemic, because of the climate change, everything that's sort of meandering together and smelting together in a huge crisis of energy, where energy prices have risen. I have actually looked at my electricity prices, and I saw that in terms of energy, in August 21, I paid about 70 Swedish öre, 70 öre per kilowatt hour. And now this year 2022, I am paying 255. So the price has gone up with more than 300%. The Queen is dead. Long live the King. The Queen of England, Elizabeth II, has died this week in Balmoral, her Scottish castle. And the whole world, almost the whole world, is sort of praising her as one of the greatest characters and personalities of all times. And there, on the other hand, I saw a lot of things, and you might heard about this too, on the internet, where other people, more critical but not in the mainstream news, almost celebrate the death of the Queen, as she was, as they say, a symbol of imperialism, a symbol of colonialization and of crimes by the British Crown. I have, I think, a very slimlined in the medium opinion about that. I don't agree with all those people who say that the Queen was one of the most important persons in the history of the world. 2 weeks ago, the former Soviet president, boss of the Communist Party, Mikhail Gorbachev, died at the age of, I think he was 91. And I think that Gorbachev, if you look at the world history of the last 50 years, did a lot of things that were much more world-changing. He sort of opened up the Soviet Union when he came to power in 1985 with his politics of glasnost and perestroika, where he really changed the Soviet Union for a couple of years, and he opened up for the end of this empire, because we're talking about empires, both when we talk about the Soviet Union and of Great Britain. Great Britain was, when the Queen was on her, when the Queen was crowned, when she came on her crown, when she got her crown in 1952, Great Britain was still an empire, and it had committed horrible atrocities almost all over the world. And the crown is still standing in that tradition. And let's see if Charles III, the new king, her son, is going to be able or willing to apologize for a lot of things that the crown has been responsible for. But I'm not glad that this woman is dead. How could I? I mean, that's not really nice. I won't be glad when villains die, like, sorry to say that, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, for example. I wouldn't celebrate. I wouldn't be sad, but I wouldn't celebrate that. I would just register it, you know. I think that's the way we should do. We shouldn't celebrate when people die. But we should definitely not overpraise them as it happens right now. That's my humble opinion, because the Queen was the Queen of Nigeria and of Kenya, and since she has never, to my knowledge at least, said anything about the crimes that have been committed in the name of Great Britain and in the name of the Crown, in the terms of colonialization, in terms of imperialism, I think that there's still something to be done. That about that. The reading part, I want to talk about BookTube. I want to talk about books, about buying books and stuff like that. I will take this up in another video because I think it's a totally different subject. So that was, I think, everything that I wanted to say about this week that has been gone to the files somewhere on our hard disk. It has been saved and in the world history. Thanks very much for watching this video last week, and I hope you have a great reading next week. And I will see you soon, because I have to predict the long list of the National Book Award for Fiction. From Wednesday on, the National Book Award Foundation in the United States will publish, I think, 4 long lists. The long list for young adult literature and children's literature, the long list for poetry, the long list for nonfiction, and finally on Friday, on my birthday actually, the long list for fiction. I will give you a prediction, maybe tomorrow, maybe on Tuesday by the latest, I hope so. So let's look forward to that, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.